The Philippine government enters a new chapter as President Bongbong Marcos calls for the courtesy resignation of his entire cabinet. The move, described by Malacañang as a bold reset, comes in the wake of midterm election losses, falling approval ratings, and mounting pressure to deliver results. While the president insists that this is about performance and not personalities, the business community is watching closely and with bated breath. Joining us now to weigh in on this development and more, and what it means for policy and investor confidence, is Makati Business Club's Executive Director, Apa Ongpin. Hi, Apa. Thank you for being here with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Okay, so
Very
Apa,
happy to be here.
great to have you. We've got an interesting topic to mull over, the president's bold reset. I want to hear what first came to mind when you first thought about this and what the MBC as an organization feels about this. Let's start with your personal initial reaction.
Well, okay. As we said in the story that was just aired, we like this cabinet pretty much, especially the economic cluster, right? We think this is sort of a political move more than anything else. It's to show that the president means business and that he has the power to make these changes, and he's going to use it, right? But we, as we said, would be very surprised if he really accepts the resignation of more than a couple of people in the cabinet. I mean, there's a couple of people there who we think should go, but I'm not going to name names. But the economic cluster in particular, we think, is really pretty good.
Yeah. What is it, Apa, about the current economic cluster that the MBC likes so much? What is it about them that earned your respect?
Well, individually, they're all, qualified. They're not political appointees. They've been appointed on merit. These are guys who know what they're doing. They're pros, right? They're people that we would have endorsed for the position. And, I can go through them one by one and say, okay, this person, is really a good choice for this position.
And what would it mean, Apa, right now at this junction, just after the midterm elections, midway into the president's term, of course? What would it mean to stop that economic cluster in their tracks right now?
Well, you're risking a perception of instability, right? But it also sounds like you made a mistake in appointing these people in the first place, which I don't think is the case, right? So, as I said, we don't think he should replace any of these people in the economic cluster.
Yeah, and some of these guys, even not in the economic cluster, are really new into their job. There's DOTR Secretary Vince Dizon, there's DIT's Cristina Roque, and DICT's Henry Aguda. They just barely got their feet wet.
Exactly. And Roque, I mean, let's talk about Roque. Expectations were low because the perception was she's just some friend of, Flam. She didn't really have stature in the big business community and stuff like that, right? But in the short time she's been there, she has really exceeded a lot of expectations. She's very dynamic. She knows what she's talking about. And she's really a very good advocate for the SME sector that she came from. So she's a surprise. She's great. We like her.
Okay, fantastic. Presidents have reshuffled cabinets in the past, quietly and in part. Now, this bold move, this bold sweeping reset, asking for the resignation of the entire cabinet, what does this say about the leadership style and the next couple of years moving forward as we head into 2028?
Well, yeah, as I said, a lot of this is being done for the optics. Now, look at the way they've done it. They've said, okay, we're going to ask for everyone's resignation. They did not say who they're planning to replace and with whom, okay? Right now, they're listening. They're listening to this program, I guarantee you, to see what people think of this, right? So in a way, it's a trial balloon, right? This this government has actually been very good at listening. They listen, they engage. You know, there's the Presidential Business Advisory Council, for instance, and then, you know, people like Anton Lagdameo. He goes out there and listens to, you know, for the political, they're listeners, you know, and they will act based on what they think is the best course of action for them. So that's a leadership style that's pretty evident.
Okay, on another front, once again, the Philippines is making international headlines, you know, following the detention of former President Duterte at The Hague. You know, Bloomberg, Reuters, everyone has picked up the story of the cabinet reshuffle midterm. What message do you think this sends out to the broader investment community globally and to the broader business community here in the Philippines?
Well, they're not looking to send a message out to the investment community or something like this. But what it does say is that the administration is looking for excellence, right? And in other words, these are not political appointees who just are there to warm the seat. It wants performance. It demands performance, right? And I guess that's what they want to show. As you mentioned, other presidents have had cabinet shuffles in the past, and there are other presidents who didn't but should have.
Okay.
But so this shows. Look, their message is we're on the ball.
Yeah,
right?
as Malacañang says, this is a call for it's designed to weed out underperformers and push a results-driven government.
Exactly.
On that note, from your conversations with MBC members, what is the prevailing sentiment of the business community following this big development?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the whole business community. I mean, we're just the Makati Business Club, which is a certain sector of the business community. But for instance, Management Association of the Philippines has come out with an unequivocal message of support for the president's existing cabinet. They said, no, we support this cabinet, don't change them. At the same time, they've said, yeah, the president also has to make tough calls, right? And every CEO has to make these tough calls. So we support the president's actions. But we didn't want to go, we, Makati Business Club, didn't want to go that far, right? We did say and have said publicly, look, we really like the cabinet. We like this economic cluster in particular. And, please don't change them, right?
Yeah, but looking at it for what it is, for the country, what do you think would be the pros and cons of this big cabinet reshuffle?
Wow, it's hard to see. One of the pros is that it demonstrates that the executive branch, means business, and they're determined to extract the kind of results that they've planned, that are according to plan. So that's optics, really.
Yeah, you think it'll re-galvanize the Marcos cabinet?
Yeah, I mean, not that it really needed that much galvanization. There's a few guys in there. I'm not going to name names who are really dead wood. Every cabinet has these guys, and it would be great to change them. Yeah. But largely, the rest of the group, it's a good group. So it's already galvanized. You don't need to re-galvanize.
I'm not going to ask you who those are because I know you're not going to answer. But in terms of cabinet stability and the goals of this administration, growth of 6 to 8%, how important is cabinet stability to achieving these growth targets, reducing poverty, and really fixing the Philippines?
Well, you know, it's debatable how much effect it has. But I do know that, for instance, in certain industries, during the Duterte era, there were, I think, 5 different heads of the Maritime Industry Authority, or Marina, right? And it did not do well for that authority to keep having to change heads every few months. You know, it was crazy. But what do you call this? But they did it, you know, and those are mostly, you know, political appointees. There's a couple who are from the industry and who really qualified, including the first one. But you know, you shouldn't do that. You know, you make a choice that you can stick with, right? In the case of this cabinet reshuffle, well, you know, who knows? It depends on who he replaces.
Yeah, hopefully they do it quickly so that we can move on to other matters. Speaking of other matters, what are the top legislative economic priorities that you would like the new Congress, both the upper and the lower house, to move forward during the second half of this administration?
Yeah, we've made that very clear in terms of our agenda. We have number one bill that we're after is the People's Freedom of Information. Okay, it's very important to us, and this bill has been pending in Congress for like 30 plus years. Yeah. So I mean, various versions of this bill. Second are the Right-of-Way Act amendments.
For infrastructure.
For infrastructure, because infrastructure is really stalled right now because of right-of-way. and also because of budget magic. The E-Governance Act is very important to us. We represent a number of different tech industries, you know, and we really need some kind of e-governance modifications. Then we have the Lifelong Learning Bill. We have amendments to the Foreign Investors Long-Term Lease Act. We're trying to get the long-term lease from 50 years, renewable for 25, all the way to 99 years. You know, I mean, why not?
Yeah, yeah.
That's considered one of the problems of foreign investors in the Philippines is they can't own land.
All right.
But if they can get a 99-year lease on it, it's like owning land. Amendments to the charters of the Philippine Ports Authority and the Civil Aviation Authority of the Philippines, which will separate their development and regulatory functions.
Yeah.
That's very important to us.
Okay. Apa, you think, given the composition of this new Congress, do you think that they're going to have the willpower to push things forward? Or given the composition, might there be gridlock as we head towards 2028? What are your thoughts?
Well, none of these are really political bills. So, for instance, with the Freedom of Information Act, you have lawmakers of all stripes supporting it, right? In fact, that's the problem, no? There are so many bills pending in Congress that they don't want to consolidate because they're on different sides of the political fence. We've got to force them to consolidate. What we've managed to do, and thank you very much to Budget Secretary Amena Pangandaman, who is the star of this show. She was able to get the Senate to consolidate into one bill. So now our next task is to lobby Congress to accept that as the version, diba? Consolidate basically with the Senate.
Yeah, okay, well, we have high hopes for that. Apa, at this political and economic inflection point, what's MBC's message to the broader business community, you know, those trying to make sense of the situation and the ones just trying to work to move the country forward? What message could you give to them?
Well, you know, hang in there, obviously. But I think one of the things one of the advantages we have is with this administration and their political style, as I said, is that they engage and they listen. And let's use that, you know, because it's really important for us to work together for progress, you know.
And your message to the lawmakers and who will be stepping into this new cabinet?
Yeah, that's the same thing. I mean, look, let's engage, let's work together, let's get these things done, you know. And, you know, this was, as I said in our press con yesterday, the Makati Business Club was originally founded in 1981 under the father of Marcos to confront the government because the government wouldn't engage. You know, they were stonewalling. So this is a big change in leadership style. This is a leadership that says, okay, we're listening. What do you want us to do? You know, this is what we want to do, but what do you want us to do? Right?
Okay.
So it's a huge change.
All right. On a totally other front, this was just in, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this while we have you, Appa. You know, in the U.S., Harvard and Trump. The Trump administration is basically barring Harvard from enrolling international students, and it's going to impact about 6,800 current international students. What are your thoughts on this when from a business and competitiveness standpoint, for an educational, premier educational institution like Harvard to be barred from accepting international students? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, it's you know, it's completely irrational. One of the major competitive advantages that the United States has in the world is precisely its education and making that education open to international students. When you have such a huge body of international alumni, the relationships that these people have made with the Americans who went to the same school are invaluable. You know, it really makes the U.S. a global player because these students later on go back to their own countries and get into power, and you know, their experience in the U.S. has formed their, you know, so it's absolutely crazy actually to do this. No, the other thing is obviously completely political. You know, Harvard and the Ivy League universities in general are considered basically hotbeds of liberalism, right? Which is in direct opposition to Trump's brand of authoritarian populism. You know? And he hates that. So that's the only reason why he's doing this.
Yeah, well, politics all over the world. It's a sticky topic. All right, thank you so much, Appa Ongpin, the Executive Director of the Makati Business Club, for joining us this morning. We're taking a short break.